In the Alchemi-Culture philosophy, there are 7 polar aspects of humanity that we need to look at if we hope to transform ourselves and the world around us. These are cosmology and philosophy, law and justice, economics and currency, citizenship and social dynamics, agriculture and ecology, science and technology, and healing and medicine. In this podcast, we're going to talk about these topics. We're going to expose ideas that can help inspire an alchemical transformation of our culture, one listener at a time. Hi there, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Alchemi-Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Phoenix Aurelius, and today I am joined by a friend, a colleague, and a mentor of mine, Dr. Don Paris. You guys have probably recognized Don before, or at least heard his name or seen it on our website. He's the inventor of the SE5, also of the Chio instruments, of the quantum server hub, of lots of different things dealing with quantum scalar energy and intrinsic data fields. It is my honor to welcome Dr. Don Paris to the show. Don, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. It's actually nighttime here in Bali,
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
good. But so if we slow down toward the end of it, it's going to be getting late for me, but it's okay. I'm having fun. I'm really enjoying
Exactly.
it.
We'll just take a look
Really.
for that little gourd on your head to start growing, send you off to bed.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that a lot of our listeners and a lot of our followers hear me talk about all the time is intrinsic data field. I have adopted this entirely into the field of Aurelian medicine.
Yeah.
I think that personally, intrinsic data field is the future of wellness, the future of healing. And what's interesting about it is that I say that it's the future, but it's actually also the present. I mean, you've been doing this for like what,
30,
25 or
30,
30 years?
35 years. Yeah.
35 years, exactly.
Already in
So
that. Mhm.
it's not exactly a brand new thing. It's just kind of a little bit slower to catch on, perhaps, than some of the other types of healing technologies. Like I hear people constantly saying, "Oh, vibration is the healing of the future," and it feels like, realistically, when we're talking about electromagnetic frequencies, we're talking about electromagnetic waves and waveform and
Right.
frequency. When we're talking about scalar does activate as a waveform at a certain point, but it doesn't seem to operate within the electromagnetic spectrum so much. It seems to be
Correct.
what we're referring to historically as a causal type of structure. But I'm interested in your own take on this and your own theories and kind of recognition of this, because we talk about IDF. One of the things most people get hung up on is how can it work at a distance, right? And of course, they've heard Albert Einstein say, talk about scalar energy, essentially saying that it's spooky action at a distance and other things like that. But I just wanted to see, do you have any clarifying points about any of that? Because I think that that's one
Mhm.
of the major hangups for a lot of folks in the modern world.
Yeah. I mean, normally I would uh, have prepared like some pictures for this because it's not complicated in the sense it can be very complicated with quaternion mathematics and showing how Maxwell's theory was kind of hijacked and taken that aspect out of the formula. So what we have today as the electromagnetic formula is missing that component. And
Mm.
so I have done some presentations on this where I can really go into detail, but I'm going to try and put it in very simple forms
Okay.
for this and just, you know, follow along with me. Um, but basically, what we do to create a scalar field is that we take an electromagnetic signal. We start with electromagnetics in this
Yes.
case. And so let's, you know, everybody knows what a sine wave is. It goes up and it goes down. So it basically switches polarities from positive to negative, right? We've all seen that little wave form,
Yep.
right? So what we do with a scalar field is that to create one, every time a wave is moving in the positive direction, we also put an opposite waveform or frequency. And so what happens is they end up crossing and nullifying both the positive and the negative field. So every time one waveform goes up, the other one goes down, and then they cross at the 0 point. That's where the word 0 point comes from.
Mhm.
And then, so it's this alternating back and forth system. Now, when you look at the standard electromagnetic theory, what that says is it goes to zero, so there is no electro or magnetism,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
But you
Yeah.
but you have to go back to Maxwell's original perspective on it, which is what Tesla used, right? He was working, in that time period with those mathematics. And so if you put the formula back together, it basically doubles this other component, which we call the scalar component, or some people have equated it with a gravitational wave. But this component over here gets doubled when you uh, cancel out that waveform. And so here's how I've described it so people can comprehend it. So let's say we have a waveform, right? And this is a sine wave. It's just going back and forth and back and forth, positive to negative and positive to negative. But now let's say I put a positive and a positive at the same time, which is canceling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes back out. Every time it would like we did those sine waves, they go
Yeah.
back and forth. So basically what happens is there's no movement anymore because every time I press on one side, it presses on the other side. And then it releases at the same time. So there's zero movement. And so we would call this one this electromagnetic. If it was movement, the movement creates electro and at the same time magnetic fields. But
Right.
what happens is, and this is how I see it, is when it presses together and releases at the same time, there is no physical movement, but there's pressure. We know that because we can feel that when we give this kind of an example. There's
That's
pressure.
right.
That pressure on the electromagnetic spectrum or on time space realistically, right? Because
Yeah.
we're talking about a waveform going through time and space, is that it's compressing or pressing on the space-time continuum. And that pressure is where I would call it the 0 point, right? Where there's no movement in time or space. And in my book, Regaining Wholeness Through the Subtle Dimensions, I do go into some of the mathematics of this to show you how this is actually taking place in the mathematical formulas to see how it manifests in the physical world. But this 0 point collapses the time-space continuum. And in that collapse, this is how I can imagine it, is that the field, this what we call the field, which is in all places at the same time, is the same as at that 0 point. So we've collapsed that and created this doubling of the scalar field, which is the field itself. And that's where we input the information, which is then in all places at the same time. And of course, we use different types of scalar antennas to then bring that out at a different point in the time-space continuum, because it's in both places at the same time. It's in all places at the same time, but it's sort of like the quantum. That's why it goes into quantum here, because we have these quantum probabilities, and through quantum mathematics, you can figure probably where that's going to collapse. The field is going to collapse, but you can't predict it exactly. And with scalar, we we found ways to actually then move it from point A to point B instantaneously without moving through time and space. I know that sounds really weird. You have to think in just one more dimension up, and then it all makes sense. But when you try to explain it in words and you're breaking everything into, kind of a one-dimensional, two-dimensional space,
Right. Right.
it's hard to say. So that's the best I could explain it without going through
Concise.
the charts and showing people. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that that's really important. And when we talk about that pressure is going to create displacement. Displacement of what, though, is the main thing. And one of the things that I always try and draw on when I conceptualize this is how when we are pushing something together, like you were saying, that if there is any medium between point A and point B at the crest and the trough, right, of any wave,
Right.
if there is some sort of fluid medium, a gas, a liquid, as wavelengths come together and meet, there's going to be displacement here. And that displacement is going to move up into a new dimension, right? So if we're
Right.
moving this way, when these two come together, we're going to squirt up. It's just like taking a little bit of water in the pool and squishing like
Squeezing it.
this. As
Right.
you create that pressure, any open spot creates some movement, and it actually creates yeah, a new pressure, a new movement.
Yeah, and that's
Uh
why I said you actually have to think about it on the next dimensional level up, because if you're thinking in just 3 dimensions or even 4 dimensions, including time and space,
yes.
or space-time, then it doesn't quite all fit, right? And that's why
Yeah.
we have these anomalies. We call them anomalies, or even Einstein said spooky action at a distance, because it doesn't fit into our perceptive qualities that we have of our senses. And
Yeah.
so we have to actually move, and the only way you can move into another dimension is by shifting your awareness or your consciousness.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So that's when we get into multidimensionality, um, different dimensions. You could even say like astral travel or causal travel, or going up into the different planes of existence. And once you have a grasp on that and you have the abilities to move through those times and spaces, through those dimensional levels, not time or
Yeah.
space, um, then it all makes sense. It's so obvious. It just, it's sort of a direct knowing, becomes direct knowing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and experience, I
Yeah.
remember when Richard Kirby first hit me up and said, "Hey, I want to have a photo of one of your spagyric tinctures to broadcast to the soil." I thought, I
Uh-huh.
don't know what the hell you're talking about. Now, actually, I had read about radionics, but he was not using the term radionic. I'd read about it in Dr. Richard Gerber's work,
Right. Exactly.
Vibrational Medicine, and I had
Yep.
heard about radionics. I was always like, oh, wow, but it took forever to bleed that term out of him that that's what he was using.
Yeah. We don't
And
use that term very often. We try to
yeah,
stay
it's a
away from it
misnomer. Yeah,
because, yeah, first of all, there aren't radio waves. I mean,
yeah,
there are some instruments that actually produce radio waves, but then they collapse them so there's no signal coming out that you can measure with radio. Uh,
exactly.
but yeah, so we try to stay away from that and go back into intrinsic data fields, because realistically we're dealing with that. And that's what I'd like to show you guys, some pictures of how we can imprint these informational fields into physical objects, and then what kind of effect that has. I think
Well,
that makes
please
more sense.
go ahead and take it away
Okay.
here. I know that you've got a little presentation prepared for us. I believe I've given you permission to share your screen already. So,
Okay. Let's see what happens.
Have you ever heard of a Chio before? Chios are some of the most affordable IDF instruments, and they require virtually no training to use. We have 5 different Chio instruments available on our website, each with varying price points ranging from only $195 for the car and computer balancers to $695 for the remote balancers. Now, all of the Chios work by inserting a Chio or Phoenix Aurelius branded IDF hologram card, and the instrument will broadcast all of the tuning saved on that hologram to your environment. Utilizing Chios in your life is a game changer, and you're going to see how easily you can positively impact your energetic, emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Use the link in the description below to see our Chio instruments and to learn more about how they can help you achieve multidimensional wellness. Let's get back to this episode.
So what I want to talk about in this one is it, to start out with, is electrosmog, and how I got started going down this particular path, with what we call the Chi organizer. And
mhm.
it started with electrosmog, and the original instrument that I've basically recreated in different forms was created by the inventor of the SE5. And so uh, that's where this technology came from. And it's a scalar antenna. So we're collapsing the electromagnetic spectrum. And what he created was a step sweep frequency generator, um, so that it goes through specific frequencies that are bio-friendly frequencies. And the concept here is that if we have bio-friendly frequencies closer to our body, and that's why we like to wear them or even just send them out into the space with the bigger ones, then we're not going to be affected by something that's further away, right? So it's just sort of like the cell phone, and this guy's holding it up to his head, which I really don't recommend.
Yeah, seriously.
But the point is if if you've got a rock band going on next door, they're putting out like 10,000 watts of power, and it's really loud. But this little cell phone might only be 2 watts of power. But when you get it up close to your ear, you cannot hear the rock band because it's louder, because you're closer.
Closer.
And that's the principle that we came up with by having these biofriendly frequencies closer to our system, and so that our cells will take on these frequencies and listen to them instead of to the other types of frequencies coming from wherever. So this is, I have to put this up every single time, but none of what I talk about has been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. It's only for research. Quantum wellness is not intended for diagnostics, cure or treatment or prevention of any disease. You should consult your physician. It's offered on informational and educational basis only. And nothing that I talk about is to be intended for substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So anyway, you can read through the rest of this, but this is, and if you use any of this information, basically you agree to hold us harmless for anything that might appear. Even some of the words we use might sound like they might be medical terms, but what we talk about are intrinsic data fields. So it's just, we got to go through this stuff every single time.
Yes, exactly. It's always good to be safe.
Yeah, exactly. So, we've known for quite a while, most everyone knows at this point, about these wave frequencies, and that a cell phone is putting out microwaves, right? And those towers you see out there are microwave towers. Microwaves also, a lot of people have them in their homes in a little box, and they put their food in there and they heat it up or cook it, right? So, okay, so if you're going to have a cell phone up to your head and it's putting out microwaves, is it going to be cooking the brain? Okay. Okay, we've got a pretty thick skull when we're an adult, and so it doesn't penetrate as far, but children should never, ever, and I don't have these pictures in this presentation, but I have them in other presentations that you might find online, where they show the heat, how far it goes into a child's brain. It goes like halfway into their brain. For us, maybe it only goes in a quarter, but still, I don't really want to fry one side of my brain either. So the point of this is, even if you're using a frequency generator that's putting out biofriendly frequencies, it's not going to stop anything from putting it directly on your head. It's not going to stop the microwaves. So don't do that. Just don't do it. So I always use mine on speaker mode. I mean, I just never put it up to my head. Okay, so these are just some different sources of where we might find these microwaves and different frequencies, and smart meters is another one. We've had,
big one, yeah.
That's a big one. We've had some very, very good results with the room balancers, where people, they don't have a choice other than moving out. They come in and they put these smart meters on, and they might be right on the other side of the wall from like a bedroom. I've had people, they put them right on the other side of the wall of their bedroom. And they're in an apartment, they don't have any choice of where they get their meter put in. And some people have moved out. Other people have used the room balancer and have had really good results with protecting them. Also these 5G towers and stuff. But this just gives you an idea. You can look up in your own area how much radiation is in your area. So if you're on the East Coast, the darker it is in the yellow, the more there is, obviously, and it's around the major cities. This is a very outdated map. So
yeah, I was going to say that doesn't look very accurate anymore.
I don't think so. I'm sure it's much, much worse than this. But you can go to wiggle.net, WIGLE.net, and you can zoom in on the map and you can look right on your areas. That it's pretty intense. So this is kind of a zoomed in area. I think I did this particular presentation in Chicago at the USPA. And so
Yes.
I wanted to see what was going on around Chicago. And it's like, it's really intense. So people need to think about these kinds of things. And then, of course, 5G, they're putting them up on light poles now. If you see one of these little kinds of things over here on the left, that is a 5G antenna, but they're hidden. Now they're making these 5G towers into, I know here in Indonesia, they're making them into trees. So they
Yeah.
look like a palm tree. I've seen them in Florida and different places. And
Same. Yeah. They look like pine trees out here in the western and
yeah,
mountain states.
yeah, exactly. Right. And then, of course, they're coming from the satellites too. Elon Musk has put up when I started doing this presentation a few years ago, he was planning on putting 20,000 up there, but let me stop this one because I got a little bit of a presentation to show you about 5G. But now I think they've got over 20,000 up there, and they're
Yeah,
all.
exactly. And that's going to be the Starlink internet,
It
right?
is. It's already working. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
And they're
exactly.
using and
Which is something
communications.
that I think is really important for people to understand. A lot of folks know that here, from the time I'm filming now, in just a couple of weeks, we're actually going to be moving to our off-grid location. They've heard about all of our struggles of how can we stay connected. There's no power lines, there's no anything for miles and miles around us. How have we been able to stay in touch? Well, that was primarily we had to get Starlink, which was why
Mhm.
this type of instrumentation, this is one of the Chio
Yep.
room balancers here. Having something like that coupled with the neutralized radiation card, and I make a very particular one of these as well. I don't have it branded quite yet, but I have my prototype right here of a Chio radiation and EMFs card that includes micronized and microwave radiation, 5G
Awesome.
radiation, a bunch of other things as tunings. For
Right.
us, this was the only thing that we were able to find on this, and using some BioArc discs near the router that we're
Mhm.
actually able to take care of the negative radiation that is put out. And of course, we only turn that thing on when we absolutely need it, in order
Sure.
to make calls or utilize the
Exactly.
internet, unplug the damn thing.
Right.
Otherwise, because it is a very significant amount of very harmful radiation that is being pumped into any environment. And you can even see the way the nature responds to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, I have
when
photos in some of my presentations. I've done quite a lot of these. You can find them on the internet, on YouTube, and where I've actually shown, like near a smart meter, how the whole side of the tree has died. It's really
Yep.
not just in one place, like, multiple of these. So absolutely. Um, Now I'm not as concerned, just so you know, I'm not as concerned about Starlink ones as I am the towers that are close by, like smart meters are way worse than Starlink satellites. They're so far away, and it's a very small signal coming down. Um, but you do have to have your receiver, which is picking that up and sending
Yeah,
things back and forth. So
exactly. And
those are
that's what
pretty powerful.
amplifies that energy.
Right. Exactly. So I'm gonna just play this short little presentation that I did about 5G and just in general radiation. It's just got some good information in there. So basically, are you concerned about it? Most people are. They're starting
Yeah.
to figure it out. And if you don't know about 5G, this is your wake-up call. Try to make this a little fun too.
Hmm.
So how much has EMF radiation increased in 10 years? Do you think it's 1,000 times more or maybe even more? Okay, this just shocked me when I saw this. It's 1 quintillion times more.
Wow. That is a
That,
staggering number.
that's a staggering number. But there are three things that you can do, easy things that you can do to reduce your EMF exposure. Okay, put your Wi-Fi modem on a timer, and this is really cheap. And all you'd have to do is put it on timer so that when you go to sleep, boom, it's off. And you don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about unplugging it. It's automatically done for you every night. Use a wired keyboard, and that way you're not putting your hands right on a laptop because, or a wireless keyboard because they're using Bluetooth and they're using radio waves. And then put your phone on airplane mode when you're not using it. If you're not going to use your phone, I know that's pretty extreme, but if you really want to reduce your EMF protection. And of course, then we have the biobalancer, the Qi organizer, and also the room balancer for putting out bio-friendly frequencies to change your cells into receiving station for bio-friendly frequencies rather than these microwave frequencies. And those frequencies are broadcast about 30,000 times per day from the uh, Chio.
Right.
And
And
I'm
you
going
can
to
kind of
show,
hear it because
yeah,
there's a liquid crystal or a
yep.
piezoelectric crystal in there, right?
So this was a phone call that was made. I'm going to show this in more detail in a minute. Before a person, this is what your cells should look like. That first one was what before a cell phone call was made. And then I had a woman make a cell phone call for 10 minutes and then test her blood again. And that's what happens to the blood after 10 minutes of a phone call. It's just disastrous. So then I had her put the Chio on and wait for 10 minutes. And this is what her cells turned out like after 10 minutes of using the Chio, which is better than what she started with. And I've got some,
Yeah.
I'll show you those individual photos as we go through it. So basically we want to limit our exposure to EMF as much as we can. Obviously there's no way to totally stop it. But if you go to your website, we've got them for cars, we've got them for the computer, and got them for the house, whole house. They'll do about 1,000 square feet. And that what's interesting about this is because it's like a bubble, you know, it's not a flat line. It goes up. I think it's starting over here.
Yeah, it's like 1,000 square feet, but in all directions, up, down, left, right, right. So the
Right.
circumference.
Yeah, exactly. So this was the first model that I created, which was a small model you could wear around your neck. And it was nice, but what we really wanted to do is merge that broadcasting frequency generator with some radionic imprintation of holograms. And so that's how we moved along from this one and we went forward. This was the first one we did the test one. So I will just show you these one more time. So this is the woman that actually did the test with a dark field microscope, and this was her blood before she started. And actually, you could see that you know, she wasn't that healthy looking, to be honest with you. She was
No,
in
no. And I mean, when you
oh
go
there,
back to that photo, I can actually point to where there's some cell membrane inflammation and
right? Yeah,
it's
exactly. So
clustering and
you do this
pumping of
kind of stuff,
cells.
so you know
Yeah.
exactly. And then so this is what healthy blood cells should look like, and this is what it looked like after 10 minutes. I mean, it's just terrible. I mean, it's
And that
just,
was just a 10-minute phone call. Was that with her up to her head?
yes. Well, yeah,
Okay.
a little bit away from the head, but right up to her ear. So it was
Okay.
not from a speakerphone. So this was up close to the head and it affected
Wow.
her blood that
I
much.
mean, you can look at that. I mean, this
Yeah.
is
Yeah, absolutely
essentially
terrible.
this is the very last stage that you're going to get right before severe clotting.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
this is going to make it harder for the heart to pump. This is going to increase blood pressure. This is going to, I mean, so many different biological processes are going to
Yeah.
be massively impacted by that, not to mention the DNA and mtDNA and RNA that
Yeah.
are going to be,
Yeah.
massively impacted here because they're being compressed. They can't work properly.
Now, just keep in mind, these photos were from probably 10, 12 years ago before there were any vaccines around where you've seen pictures like this, right? From vaccines.
Yeah.
This is just from a cell phone, you know? So anyway, this was after using the Chio for 10 minutes. Now, it's not perfect, but way better than the first picture and 1,000 times better at least, or 10,000 times better than after a phone call. So anyways,
Absolutely.
so that's pretty cool. And then, so I did do this in a little presentation there. You see the hologram card um, down at the bottom there. And the
Yeah.
idea of this was, um, and I've taught a lot of people how to do this. And a lot of people have become multimillionaires over it, which I'm very happy about. But basically, uh, we figured out that holograms, the reason holograms work to imprint informational fields into is that they're basically crystalline structures. We found that crystals, like quartz crystals, for example, that comes from radionics from, 100 years ago almost, probably
Yeah.
at least
Yeah.
75
Yeah.
years ago, that crystals hold and vibrate these intrinsic data fields very well. You can imprint them, they stay there, and they also will uh, create,
Transmit to a certain degree.
transmit. Yeah, in a way, we call it transmitting, but emit. Let's call it
There
emitting.
you go.
Emitting these informational fields. And so if you look at this, and again, I don't have that picture in this presentation, but if you look at, it's like a CD. It's the same kind of film that they use in a CD. And that's why you get the colors, is what happens is that when you create the image or the three-dimensional image of the hologram, or like on a CD, it creates the rainbow colors just like a prism, just like a crystal will, because it's just, trillions of little crystals on this film. And that's why it holds the information. It's also holding it on a CD, right? Those
Yeah.
CDs actually hold information. And what we've done is we bypassed the traditional three-dimensional informational fields, and we've gone to the next dimensional level. It also holds intrinsic data fields. So that's
Yeah.
our hologram that we designed. Is a very powerful design as well as a good geometric form. Geometric forms, as you know, hold and create an energy pattern in the subtle energy field. And so we created these hologram designs with the seven-pointed stars that we use in the SE5 antennas as well. So there are 25 pre-done programs, and I'm going to show you guys how we have done that, how these are even come out. How do we get one that says sleep or allergies or spiritual growth? What's inside of there? Where's the information? How do you put information in?
Mm.
I'm going to do a very, very short demonstration of that, of how we got to this point. But these are all the different available programs that are available that we have pre-done, and I know occasionally people will go for a custom type imprinted thing, and I don't know if you do that, but I know a couple other people that will.
Oh yeah, I definitely do that.
Okay,
And we're also starting to make a couple of others. So
awesome. Yeah, so this
I've
will
got
grow.
a prototype here. By the time people watch these, they might be out, but we've got a prototype here. This one is for mold and mycotoxins, for instance.
Awesome, great.
And this was
Awesome.
one that I actually created to deal with the mold and
Yeah,
mycotoxin
that's right.
in a small area in our house.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
amazing.
right, right. Yeah, that's great. And so these were, now what I'm going to show you guys when I show you this is that these programs have been birthed out of 35 years of doing individual analysis and finding out when we do something for an individual versus, and watching that happen over and over and over, we see which tuning frequencies are basically kind of universal, so that
Yeah,
we can put them together, and they're not going to be specific for each individual person, so they don't work all the time for everybody. Not that anything does, but
right.
they are quite universal, and they work for most of the people most of the time. That's how I can say it.
Yeah, well, I can totally agree with that. It's like, as a caveat, if we see somebody as an analyst that has, say, inflammation due to a very particular root cause, if that root cause is not necessarily addressed as an intrinsic data field tuning in the card, then maybe it won't work as well for that individual, but we still see statistically that
Sure,
there is a
still
significant,
works. Yeah.
yeah,
They
significant
work for
decrease.
most of the people most of the time. That's kind of what I say. Not going to
Yep,
work out.
perfect.
There's just a little close up of the hologram, and you can kind of see how those colors are coming out of there, and almost you can see the three-dimensionality of it. But basically, any hologram will work. Um, you can even program your credit cards if you know how to program things, like with the SE5. You can
Yeah.
actually program your credit card, which has a hologram in there. I've done that in classes. But we created one that has a really powerful geometric to go along with it. So I'm going to show you guys what happens. These were some programmed holograms to keep the fruit fresh, and obviously the one on the right did not get one. They were all set out on the table at the same time, And this was after, whatever, 10 days or 2 weeks. I don't remember the amount of time on this particular one. But you
That's
can see the
significant.
difference, right? That's significant. This one's even more significant. I don't have the before pictures, but I have the after pictures. So these are not real pictures up at the beginning of this. But basically
Right.
what he did was he took an apple, one apple, and cut it in half and put a hologram under one of them. And this is the one, this was after, I think, 1 month. And they're both
Wow.
sitting out on the table. Well, you'll see the next one. So this one had the hologram that was programmed to keep the fruit fresh. And then this one is the one that didn't get the hologram.
Yeah, that's what I would expect it to look like if it's
Oh,
opened up
4
after a
months.
month.
I'm sorry, that was 4 months. Ah, yes. I couldn't remember how long it was, but that
4
was
months.
so
Wow.
this has been sitting on the table for 4 months just with a hologram, keeping it fresh, right? And that's the same other half of the same apple after 4 months.
That is so wild. That
That's
is
wild,
so wild.
wild stuff. So one of the companies, which I can't tell you the name of the company, but they were using the SE5 to program their holograms, and they became very large. It was a multi-level marketing kind of thing. They actually paid for some studies to be done. In this one, they had 246 participants, and they did this with the holograms and then also placebo. So they all got holograms. Some were programmed and some were not programmed, and they didn't know which group was doing that. But this particular one was for pain, and 83% of the programmed people had a reduction in their pain, and the other one had 18%, which is consistent with placebo. So,
It is. Yeah.
you know,
Anything less than 30, really.
yep, up to 30%. And I tell people, I'm totally in favor of placebo. It's just that's not what I'm attempting to do here. But if we've
Yeah.
got it, let's use it because it's a great thing. But I wouldn't depend on it. I didn't want to depend on placebo. But here's a study where they actually had that difference where they could actually see it. So this one, they had 20 adults between 20 and 25 and 55. And then they did actual measurements on them to show how much of their uh, daytime sleepiness. All they could do is kind of anecdotal in this, but the participants reported that they slept deeper, but not longer. So they felt better during the daytime from the sleep. That was another study that was done. And this one was really cool with rhinosinusitis. They had, again, with the placebo group and both got holograms. They had a 93% success rate of symptom relief with rhinosinusitis, whereas the placebo only 9%, and which is normal again. So you can get up to sometimes 30%, but
Yeah.
normal is 9 to 20% just with placebo, but not 93%. You don't see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a statistical anomaly if a placebo is ever getting up anywhere
Love that.
above 30%
Yeah,
at all.
sure.
So,
Yeah. So this is the room balancer, which we talked about. We have one that comes in the plastic box, which is nice. Some people wanted to have beautiful wooden boxes, which we had made here in Bali. And this is a limited edition. There won't be any more of these once they're sold out, because of the difficulties we had with getting wood moved from one country to another now is very challenging with all the regulations these are teak wood. And so there's, precious woods, and then they have to be checked for bugs and infestations and all this stuff. It was a lot of work to get these into America. But they're all good and certified, and so beautiful, and they're very beautiful. And we've got a couple different designs. That's one of the designs on the top.
true.
That was then we have the remote balancer, and this is kind of like what I'm going to show with the SE5, what some people can start to do some experiments with, like what you were talking about. What Richard had asked you to do is to take a remedy and then send it at a distance. So that's the purpose of that plate, is that you can actually put a photo or a hair sample inside the unit and then put a remedy on there, and they'll pick up the IDF of that remedy no matter where they are on the planet. And also it uses hologram cards and sends those at a distance. And so it's kind of like a little bit of a poor man's SE5, and it's really cool. It's a great way to get introduced into radionics. The way
I really think it is too. I know that these are not maybe the most popular instruments
no,
for a number of reasons, because some people are either looking for maybe a little less functionality or a little more
right.
functionality.
Most
But to be
people want to turn it on and let it do its thing, but
exactly, but
yeah,
this is
this is great
amazing,
to
and this
experiment
is
with.
this is something that I feel, Don, that a lot of healers, if they really had any understanding of how to be able to utilize this for their clients while they're not seeing them, in the week or 2 weeks
Right.
between they see clients, this is great. Get a Polaroid of your client, get a certain type of card, like we have an astral and etheric wellness card that we make over here at the
Right.
Academy. You can put that in there, help to balance their chakras, every meridian point, all of the
Right.
fascial planes, keep fascia intact, things like
Right.
this. This is great for massage therapists and energy healers of all different sorts. And it helps to maintain maintenance. And it's an obvious upsell to any of the clients that you're already working with. If you can say, hey, we can help to hold on to a lot of the work that we did here today
Right.
between your next session, it seems like an obvious thing to me. So this is, even though this is one of the lesser popular sellers, to me, this is one step down
Yeah.
from an SE5 itself and one big step up from a room balancer. And the thing that I
Absolutely.
like about this too is that you don't have to be in proximity to the instrument in order for it to have effect. This is a remote balancer, so you can be quite a way away. The scalar antenna is essentially the same as what you'd put into
It is the same. The
a
SE5.
BOI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
a
yep.
BOI and an SE5. Yeah.
Yep. It is. It's totally, it's exactly the same scalar amplifiers, and it works great. I mean, it really does. I love it. And of course, we have one for the car and one for the computer that you can plug in your computer. And it uses actually little crystal USB sticks, and we program the crystals. Again, it's use crystal whenever you can get your hands on a crystal and you can program it. You can use it in some way, shape, or form.
It's true.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go out of my presentation and I'll switch over to my camera here. So I'm gonna stop sharing and I'll switch my camera over to the SE5, and then I'll share my screen with our software. So let me get back to here. Oh, I got to get out of the.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah, kind of getting there.
Do you
Okay.
just have an aerial mounted camera above your SE5?
Uh, okay, we can't talk about that stuff. It's actually levitating.
Okay.
I'm joking. I'm
Fair
joking.
enough.
Okay, I'm joking. Okay. Somehow I've got to stop this. Okay, I got to stop my slideshow before I can go further. There we go. No, it's yeah, it's just kind of hanging out over my SE5, and it works pretty well.
It does. It works really well. It's really nice to be able to see that like that.
Okay, so now you're seeing my software, right? And you're seeing
Yep,
the SE5.
that's true.
So yeah, so I'm going to just update a session that I started here with. There's nothing in it yet for a presentation, and what I'm going to do is just show you how we would go about doing something with one of these programs. I've got a lot of different programs in here, but let's say align chakras, for example. This is how basically we kind of came up with um, different tunings that apply uh, to a particular subject. In this case, it's me, right? So I can actually measure each one of these things. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'll just show you a couple things of what's in one of the hologram cards that we program. So if I want to check to see if this is an indigo microcrystal card, and it should read 100% if I already have the IDF frequencies that are programmed into that tuning. If it reads 100%, then I don't really need that one, right? And so what I do is I rub on this plate over here. This is called the precision stick detector. And here at the bottom of my screen, you'll see a little graph going on. And so when I rub on that, it makes a little waveform. You see the little waveform there. And
Yep.
as I change the resonant amplitude on the dial over here on the left, when I hit a resonance peak, it'll beep, and you see that little spike here in the graph. So we know we've hit a resonance peak at 98.6%. So that's something that I wouldn't really need, that particular one, but it's in the overall program so that when it's being balanced or programmed in the hologram card, what's really amazing and super helpful is that our system only takes up the information that's needed. So if you don't need it, it's like, okay, that's great, because it's already there. It's just like more like a suction. Like when it needs something, it'll pull in that information and start integrating it.
Yeah,
So
the way
now,
I kind of talked about this is that it's like abundant minerals or amino acids or nutrition or whatever available in the soil, and as the plant needs it from its root, then it will be able to absorb it as necessary. And it's
exactly.
not something where you can like overdo it
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. So this one is um, a silence stimulator, and it's the color orange. And again, that's something that I don't need. But I'm just going to go down a few of these and see if there's anything that I might need. And we have extra chakras in here. So these are like the knee chakras. Oh, gosh, this is great. Actually, I have a little bit of a knee problem going on. And so that is something that I need. It's only 69%. You see that?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
69.7.
Now, what we would do with the SE5 is then balance whatever we would find here that would be out of balance. In this case, I could balance just that one tuning frequency. So you see here up on my screen, it says 62333/62343, which is the tuning IDF frequency for the knee chakras. And what I would do is then dial that up to 100% because that's where I want it to go. And I switch from measure into balance. And now it's actually then sending me those particular intrinsic data fields so that my body then could go to work on that area. So the body does the healing. All this is doing is sending information saying, go back to work. Don't forget about this, right? That's
Yep.
how I explain it. At least that's a metaphor maybe of how to talk about it. But so this goes on, and I'm not going to do this for too long, but I want to do it long enough to where I take another measurement and we'll see if it has changed. And now,
Yeah, and usually even anywhere between like 30 seconds to five
right,
minutes, depending on the tuning, can be very impactful.
sure. So I'm going to go back to the measure mode and we'll just measure it again. And this time, um, okay, it's up to 94%. So in my software, then it keeps track of that for me before and after. And of course, every day you do it, it'll come up with a new date
Hmm.
for it. So this is how we did the analysis part to come up with these programs in the first place. And then we would go in the balancing mode and we would put these into a program and imprint them with another process into the holograms. And that's how those programs were developed. And over time, over the last, gosh, some of these over the last 20, I would say at least 25 years. The first 10 years, I did a lot of experimentation. And then the last 25 years was really using that expertise and putting them into different things like these products, for example. I know that it's very, very short. I have a lot more different videos on YouTube where you can look up and see more longer demonstrations. And on our Radionic school, um, radionic.online, we have a school and there's a lot of free classes on there where you can see this in action and see how it's working on a little bit more personal level. But I just wanted to give people some kind of an idea of how you can go from a hologram to having information in it and what that process is even like, or how could it even get there. And so that's how it's happening is with the SE5 2000. That's how it's being imprinted. So let's go back to our presentation and go back to the slideshow, because there's some, that's kind of the end of the hologram thing, but I do want to talk about now something called quantum wellness, which is basically using the SE5 remotely. I'm going to have to get back down there. So that not everyone can afford to get an SE5. I mean, this is not, it's not
Yeah.
inexpensive.
I mean, and to
equipment.
be perfectly honest, it is much more in reach than a lot of other
Yes,
instruments
yeah,
that I
yeah,
have seen.
yeah. I mean, it's
So
they're under
it is
$6,000.
available for folks, but if you don't have like a business model or a healing practice or
Right.
other things like that set up to be able to utilize this, it is a big chunk of money to spend
Sure.
all at once. It's, you know, about
Yeah.
$6,000 or so
Right.
in US
Yep.
dollars.
Exactly.
And that's where maybe some of the Chio instruments come in. And then one more affordable price option here definitely is the quantum wellness server, the quantum wellness hub. This is
Right. Exactly. And this is where we actually do the balancing for people, but not individual analysis like what I was just showing you, where I would find out
exactly.
exactly what a person needs. That's that's really big. There are practitioners that do that kind of stuff. But it's an intense process of
It
trying to
is.
find all these things. It takes hours to really do a custom program for somebody. But we do have a lot of programs to choose from on here. We've got I don't know how many. These are all the categories. We have 15 different categories, and then underneath of each one of these, there are multiple programs. So I think there's over 50 or 60 programs that people can choose from, and then we run them for them on a weekly basis. So these are the programs that people can choose from. For example, under DNA activation, we've got 12-strand DNA activation, DNA RNA repair, and then a lot of people really love the 432 hertz DNA healing. So we send those frequencies via intrinsic data fields directly to the person remotely, or 528, or using it to resolve ancient memories and like karmic patterns, for example. Really cool. So anyway, we've got all these different programs to choose from. And each month a person gets 4 programs, right? So you get to choose 4 different ones. And if you want more on one, then you choose the same one twice, maybe the first week and the third week. So we take that program, one of the programs the first week, let's say the first one you choose, let's say you chose aura healing, the advanced version of aura healing. And then we run that 3 times that week. And then you pick, you choose 4 for the month before the next one comes up. Maybe it was hair growth, and we'll run that 3 times during the next week, and then the next week and the next week. So each week you're getting balanced every other day, basically, with one of the programs throughout the whole month. And we do that for $49.95 a month, which I think that's very reasonable for people. And I'm going to show you some testimonials.
Let me just put it like this. Most of my BOIs, which are a broadcast only instrument, most of my BOIs that we have over here, I value those at $300 a day.
A day.
And so if somebody needs a broadcast for say 22 hours a day, they're basically, I'm just taking 300 and dividing that by 24 and then timesing that by 22. So it becomes relatively a pricey thing to receive broadcasts regularly. Now, of course, the way that I do it was kind of the way that Don was talking about, where you do an analysis in order to find out precisely what a client needs. So anybody who's been familiar with my IDF wellness research programs or the Aurelian medicine wellness research programs or anything like that, that's what we're doing over here in our clinical trials, is being able to identify precisely what is out, why it's out, from cellular level down to submolecular levels and so on and so forth, all the way on up to large organic systems. And also energy systems of the body, and then being able to identify these things. And so when you're getting a broadcast that is custom curtailed to you, oftentimes the amount of broadcast time that's necessary may not equal the same broadcast time as when you get a general kind of more, I don't like to devalue it by just calling it a generic broadcast, but we'll call it a ubiquitous type of broadcast or ubiquitous tunings. because they work all across the board. And so we're not playing apples to apples here either when you're saying custom broadcast versus a ubiquitous type of broadcast. But my point in saying all of this is it is outrageous deal to be able to get broadcasts at all throughout the week for $50 a month.
Yeah, for $500 a month, it's still an amazing thing if
It really is.
if it existed, just because there's nothing like this out there in the world, really. I mean, it's just kind of a one of a kind thing.
Exactly.
So, I get a lot of feedback from people. I don't ask for testimonials. These just come back, emails, often. But I thought this was, because we don't work only with health kinds of things. We work with the field, and the field means how our life force is. And life force has to do with chakras, and the chakras have to do with different things like physicality in the root chakra and survival. And that also includes money. But so this has happened for quite a number of people. This is just one of them. But she just got her second session done, and like she said, she can't prove that this is how it worked, but I've seen it so many times. I just, it's like, yeah, of course. But a big amount of money appeared in her bank account that she thought she would never get back. She had given some money to someone years and years ago, back in 2008, and just had written it off because it wasn't coming back. And we ran the program, and by the second balancing session, it just showed up in her bank account from Mary's.
That's awesome.
It's a good one. And this one has been really good. This one just came in like a couple days ago. I got this from Ron. He just wanted to report that the Cosmic Cancer program was super powerful. He's interested. We have a couple new programs that I don't actually have on this list, but are on the website, called that work with the German New Medicine, the Hammer program of releasing the trauma, which Dr. Hammer feels like the trauma is what causes basically all diseases, but specifically cancers for sure, that there's always a traumatic event. And he's done, just amazing amount of research in that, which we discovered his work in 1988, I think it was, when we went to Austria and we heard about it. We had to go to a special bookstore and then, just kind of like ask for a special person, and then he had to go from underneath of the counter in a brown paper bag, and he said, well, the book is in here and you have to pay me, but don't open it in here. And they really hassled Dr. Hammer and put him in jail.
It's true.
All kinds of stuff.
Now that's amazing that you've been turned on to German New Medicine for so long. For me, I had heard about it, was kind of familiar with some of its tenets up until this last year, where I did a big deep dive. And I didn't know that you were doing any of this. I also went in and I created a German New Medicine program.
I have a whole course. I have a whole course on that. If you look on the school, there's one course that, not the whole course, but a good portion of the course.
Why of course you do. I should have just checked there first.
Yeah. Anyway, well, my wife is German, Ilona Selke, and so it was only in German back then. So I still have the book. It's about this thick, and it's all in German. So we went through it at that time. I didn't speak German that well at the time, so she was basically reading it to me and translating it, and we adapted that to Radionics. Yeah, for sure. This one just came in today. She just said, look, I love the quantum healing sessions. And that was like, oh, thanks, Sandra. Okay. This was a cool one. This guy was having leukemia, and we have some leukemia sessions that again, these are intrinsic data fields. They're not working on the physical level. And we're not saying that we're going to cure leukemia with it. It's just that we send out this, and then he had the tests, and he says, look, his recent test, and he's been with us now for, I think, 3 years. And it's undetectable, and it's staying down there. So he's just, Mr. Smith there is just totally excited about this.
That is a really clinically important thing to understand too. I mean, two things about that is, one, that we are not, as IDF technicians, operators, analysts, etc., looking to have a huge influence on people's health and wellness. We're not even looking at that level. What we're doing is trying to balance the intrinsic data fields that are showing that these types of things, if left unaddressed could quite possibly precipitate into disease or illness.
Well, that's our belief system. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
information comes first, and then comes energy, and then comes the out of balanceness, which would then could cause a physical problem. This one just came in last week. Things are continue to be exceptional on the health front. He's been with us for also 3-4 years. Looks forward to the programs every week if they've proven to be a great benefit. This was an interesting one. A guy wanted to know, he'd seen some of my presentations about weather clearing different aspects, and he wanted to see if we could do anything about the chemtrails over his house. And so I said, why not? Go ahead and take a photo. And we sent some frequencies for that. And it was been a roaring success. So he keeps sending me these pictures. Now it's been a year later, and he's still having these clear pictures show up of no chemtrails anymore. So that's just, I thought I'd throw that one in there. This one, she feels better than when she started with quantum wellness. She's eating normally since the beginning of the year. She doesn't feel any constant electrical shock in her system. She was having like that electrical kind of thing in the nervous system. And I don't actually remember which program we were working with she was running on here, but she feels more comfortable. She, she's just doing better, it's good. This was an interesting one, that his vision is blurry at times when he first wakes up, but when he gets the balancing sessions, he had a stroke, right? This guy had a stroke. But when we're running right during the time when the sessions are running, his vision clears up. And he said not immediately, but starts about 20 minutes and then goes after the session for another 20 minutes and just clears up, and it's like he had invisible glasses on. That was good. Oh, this was a long one, but this one just blew me away, that he lost 16 pounds of water in over 16 days. And just almost everything just got better. And yeah, he was in bad shape. So, and we, a lot of people that we tend to get the people that have tried all the stuff and they're not getting better. So when they do get this and you see this kind of result, it's like, oh, right, this is what, this is getting the body to do the work. The body goes into a healing mode. And so we send these frequencies and the body says, okay, yes, it's right. Let's go get into this and start getting it better. But I just love seeing all these reports from people. She felt the energy running through her body, and she's very happy. She's a golden oldie, she said. And again, there it is. And over the years, modern medicine had failed her. So Marilyn was just totally stoked to have all this energy come up and start feeling better just within a month. Oh, this was a good one.
This looks like a good one, yeah.
Yeah, so she wanted to know if the running the prosperity, and we've got a couple programs like that for cash flow. I think it was the cash flow program. If she liked playing the lottery and seeing if it would increase her lottery wins. And she didn't have the picture of the $300 one, but these are just some of them. She was going to start taking more and more pictures. But she made like $600 on this one and $400 on this one, and I can't remember what this one turns out. I can't read it, but she did a lot of them. Yeah. This was another cash flow one. So we've had a lot of people with the cash flow one that has him. Everybody needs more cash, basically.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. It's not going to work for everybody, and and we can always say it's coincidence. But these coincidences just keep happening, and I think that's just fine. I'm okay to call it a coincidence when my bank account gets bigger. How about you?
Yeah, that's not
It's
a
all
terrible
good.
one.
It's all good. Oh, and this guy, Brian, yeah, he's also been with us for 3 or 4 years. That it's the first time in 76 years that he was 98% allergy free in the springtime. It's just great. Really awesome. So anyway, for those of you guys that want to jump into this, please use this, and you should put this in the chat somewhere.
Yeah. We'll have this
But
in the link down
yeah,
in the
so
description of the video.
Phoenix is an affiliate, so he'll get part of your support when you get your programs, and we're happy to pass that along to him. So when you sign up, make sure you use the reference of Phoenix Aurelius, and then he will get some money every month, which is great. I have a couple of other affiliates uh, that are getting a sizable amount of support each month from Quantum Wellness, which is, just great. Now
Including
this,
our good colleague Ryan Sternagel, right, from the
oh
Stern
yeah,
Method.
you know Ryan. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, Ryan is a very good friend of ours. We're the ones who turned him on to
Uh-huh.
SE5 and onto your work.
Awesome. Okay, I wondered where he came from,
Yeah,
because I
he's a
couldn't
local
remember.
Utah guy.
That's right. That's right. So Ryan has been doing very, very well with this and helping a lot of people with it and just getting great feedback, So um, the thing that I wanted to share with everyone is that if you use the code Phoenix at checkout, you'll get 50% off the first month. So basically, the first month is only $24.95. You can try it out and see how it goes for you. And yeah, it's awesome. Get a 50% discount. So you
Yeah,
want to put that in the chat or something too, so people. But all you have to do is remember to put in Phoenix, and you'll get
yeah.
that's
We'll have
50%.
all of those details available down in the bottom of the
Yeah.
yeah, like in the description area.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. I didn't talk about our Bali blessing, but that's in our website. They can look at it. We have our staff actually do a blessing for the people each week where they videotape it for you personally, like when you sign up for it. They actually will focus on you and do a Bali blessing with the flowers and the incense and the thing that they do and give you an energy ball, and videotape that and send that to you each week, and that's an extra $25 a month. And I've got some samples and stuff on the website. But I mean, we had done this during COVID because, Bali shut
Yeah,
down and there were no flights coming in, and we had zero guests here, zero for 2 years. I mean, zero. We're not talking just a few. And so we tried to come up with what could our staff do to help people and also bring in some money to help pay their salary, because we kept everybody on full salary for 2 years here.
yeah.
It was
Out of
without any
pocket, out of
guests,
pocket.
out of
It was
pocket. Yeah,
insane.
it was insane. But programs like this helped, and so we thought it would just kind of be a thing for COVID, and we still have a lot of people still doing this because they love that blast of positive energy. Well, first of all, coming from Bali, but coming from a Bali person that is trained from the time they're just little babies till growing up to actually contact higher forces and to share that and uh, bless people and bless things. They do it 3 times a day anyway, for
Yeah,
different. They do it all day long, every day, not all day long, 3 times a day, um,
right.
for themselves anyway. They connect with spirit and higher forces and make their blessings. So anyway, you can add that on, which is just great.
That is a
Then you,
great thing. I've been part of that for, well, since COVID,
right,
actually,
right,
receiving Bali
great.
blessings.
Yeah,
I
they're
have to
great.
say that they're absolutely fantastic. It's really cool to have blessings that are given to you where you can insert your own intention in it. And it's a
Yeah,
kind of a generic blessing that allows you to get what you want. It's not just
yeah.
them blessing whatever they want.
Right.
They're holding a space and a container for you to be able to pump your own intentions into. And I can stand behind that and say that it's quite a powerful service. It's really great.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I didn't realize you were part of that, but I'm very happy that yeah, you're still getting them.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you've checked out, then you'll be taken to another page where you want to have a full body picture of yourself with no other people, plants, or animals in the photo, or whatever you want to balance. So if it's a picture of your house, you can do that, for example, and have it ready to upload. A plain background like a door works really well. That's what I suggest to people. I'll show you an example of what I did, but it's not a door, it's just a blank wall. But um, and then after checkout, like I said, you'll be redirected to that page where you can choose. We have the whole list of all the different programs to choose from, and you can choose your first 4 programs you want balanced and upload your photo right there. So this is an example of photo that I use, and just use plain background. It's just fine. Just no other plants or animals in it. And if you guys want to learn more and understand more about this, you can go to my website and sign up for my newsletter, and you'll also get a link to download my book, Regaining Wholeness Through the Subtle Dimensions. And also, I don't send newsletters out too often, like really not too often. I really should do a lot more. But a couple times a year, I try to come up with some new information and do a webinar. If I'm going to do something, I'll let people know. Yeah. And also you'll get my book, Regaining Wholeness Through the Subtle Dimensions, PDF for free.
Free.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, there's a picture of it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Great. So anyway, that's it. That's kind of the end of the show. And if you have any questions, Phoenix, I'll try to answer those. And anything you can think of that we didn't cover, that you like to share, or anything you want to follow up with, explain, because I tell you, everyone, this guy is just phenomenal, as everyone already probably knows because they're your clients that are coming to this. But I've been just blown away by the amount of research you do, the directions you've taken with the SE5 and radionics, and where you've gone with all this is just blown me away. Really.
Well,
You're even
really
teaching courses on it now.
I am, yeah. Thank you for acknowledging that. I mean, when I got into this, of course, Richard had told me, a lot of things, and he's a very forward-thinking analyst himself. He does some very, very interesting things that kind of, break away from what I had seen most other practitioners kind of engaging in. And so having him as a major resource and a mentor, and working with him for 2 years and kind of having the opportunity to see the way he did things was cool. And it also still gave me an idea that said, if I were to approach this utilizing the scientific method, how would I do things differently? Because that's one thing, is a lot of analysts have not approached things necessarily using the scientific method. And I don't necessarily suggest that they need to or that they should. It's just that that's my own interest and something that I really wanted the opportunity to do. For instance, when I make a spagyric tincture over here, I want to be able to identify what phytochemicals are inside of my finished product that were from the starting material. And I want to be able to measure a quantity of this, because oftentimes to send these things off to a lab is completely cost prohibitive. It takes sometimes $3,000 just to buy a standard for, one of case in point, we make a product called strophanthus seed. It's the seed of Strophanthus gratus, and it has a cardiac glycoside in it that is really great in homeopathic or very small quantities for preventing heart disease. And this is something that Dr. Tom Cowan has mentioned. He's kind of the one who turned me on to the Strophanthus gratus when I was reading his book, A Human Heart, Cosmic Heart. And so we were able to source some of this and make a product, but I needed to find out how much G strophanthin, also called wabane, there was. And so I'd call to all of the labs and I'd say, how much is it in order for me to get just an analytical standard for this? Most of them were like, oh, in order for us to get the standard, it's $2,000. And then in order for us to run the test, then that's another like $800. So here we are, $2,800 to check for the presence of one phytochemical inside of our product. And so it becomes even, and our method, of course, we don't accept grants. We don't accept investors into our business model, because that limits the scope of the research and how to do it. So having an SE5 is really the only way that I could figure that I would be able to engage in research of these types of phytochemicals.
You paid for your SE5 in the first bottle of tincture.
Yeah, you're not even kidding. It's like, wow, I just saved a ton of money just by doing that. So that's one of the things that we use it for. We also use it to determine what spagyric formulas or products can work on what different systems of the body, so that we can classify them both within Ayurvedic as well as traditional Chinese medicine terms, as well as Western herbalist terms as well, and see what types of systems of the body, whether we're talking about a meridian system or whether we're talking about any of the sub doshas, or whether we're talking about whatever, and we can see
Right.
how effective they are. We can also check out their taste profiles and so many other things, and then we use it like crazy too to determine what the root cause imbalances might be behind any sort of condition or symptoms that people come to us with. We can research those things, and I specialize in checking on people that have quote unquote incurable conditions, because I don't buy into the concept that there's anything that's incurable ever. I just think that there are things that are lesser understood, and if we limit ourselves to the resources that exist, we'll probably continue getting the answers that exist, which says, oh, it's incurable. But if we look towards more cutting edge technologies and more forward thinking ways, we might actually find solutions. That's a huge part of the research that I've done. And in just focusing on those three fields, which I do a lot of other things too, agriculture, of course, and you know, the thing that I've been focusing on this year the most is how to completely eliminate the negative effects of forever chemicals and various plastic toxins and other things.
Awesome.
And
Going back to your heart tincture stuff. So when I was at the Tesla conference this last summer, one of the things I picked up on was a little portable ultrasound unit, where you can look at the inside of the arteries here. That's the main thing that we've been dealing with, just because that's the guy that gave the lecture at the Tesla conference. That's what he's trained in, but it'll do everything. You know, you could look at babies with it, or you could do inside whatever, if you know what you're looking at. But what I've come across is in a couple different people, is the thickness of the artery wall has gotten really thin. And that's it's a sign of, like, older people, for example, that when the artery wall gets really thin, that that it starts having some problems. Do you know anything? Would your tincture be beneficial in that, or do you know any other things that would be beneficial in that? I'm thinking about one particular case that I came across.
yeah, absolutely. So what we make it typically to do that in the alchemical tradition, Western alchemical tradition, is called the alchemical oil of egg. And essentially what it is where we'll take a bunch of really awesome fresh eggs and then hard boil them, and then peel off the whites, and then take the yolks and dehydrate, or we now freeze dry them. Get all the moisture out, and then we tincture them with alcohol, just as if it were an herb. And you can keep it in that tincture form so that it's easier to take, or you can also distill the alcohol out, and you're left with all of this oil that is left over from that egg. And that has such a rejuvenating effect on all of, and you know, you always hear like, oh, eggs have cholesterol, eggs are bad for the heart, and all these things. The whole concept behind cholesterol and arteries and everything else, that is an old science. People really need to update themselves on that, because we've shown that it has very little to do with that. Cholesterol can get caught, but typically what we're seeing with arteries and artery thinness are two or three main things. One is lack of omega-3, 6, and 9 balance, which what's true is that every cell has a membrane, and that membrane in most people, because of intracellular toxins, is quite inflamed. And what that means is that when the cell membrane is inflamed, nutrients can't get in, whether we're talking about vitamin D, whether we're talking about hormones, whether we're talking about, you know, calcium, silica, phosphorus, etc. They can't get in. And all of the exudate toxins from the cells that are supposed to get out also can't get out, because there's this huge amount of inflammation. And so the glutathione pathways are completely congested.
I see.
And what ends up happening is that the DNA and RNA that are necessary for those cells, now particularly we're talking about cardiovascular cells or venous and capillary and arterial cells now. What ends up happening when that happens is that they can't get in the right amount of nutrients into the cell membrane. That entire cell membrane is essentially composed of omega fatty acids and phospholipids. And so if phosphorus and other fats can't get in there in order to maintain that cell integrity, then what ends up happening is that the DNA can't reproduce another healthy cell. And then over a series of generations of that, now the cells are not performing their same function, and you start to see a deterioration of the arterial wall. Well, the alchemical oil of egg, as well as ghee works with proper ghee, we're not just talking clarified butter, we're talking cultured A2 from a gear cow, and then churned in a Bologna, and then made, proper grita, essentially. That will actually help to reverse that thing. But the first thing that we need to do, which I think is the smartest thing, and I do this primarily from an SE5 level, although you can do it with hemp as well, CBD in particular, is you have to decrease that cell inflammation. If you can decrease the cell inflammation, then provide something like the oil of egg or ghee or large quantities of coconut oil, all of which spectrographically are more or less the same. There are some minor differences in their structures, but if you can provide either of these substances in high quantities for a short period of time, then the cardiovascular health of the individual just shoots through the roof, because you're able to provide it with the structure that helps the cells and the cell membranes to maintain that thing. And with veins and arteries in particular, what's really cool is that as the blood is flowing through them, we oftentimes think of the heart as a pump, but Tom Cowan showed that the heart can't possibly be a pump in the way that we think about it, because the tissue at the bottom of the heart is way too thin.
Right, exactly.
It would just it'd tear out, but it does vortex, and that reduces surface tension of the blood. And then we have what are called hydrophilic tubes, basically, and the fat layer of the arteries on the inside and the veins as well is oftentimes what is actually moving the blood anyway. And so if you can restore that healthy fat layer, then you get a perfect hydrophilic tube that is able to move the blood properly. And this takes care of most of the blood-based disorders, unless, of course, we're dealing with one of these numbers, in which case blood coagulation is just something that has to be addressed on its own. We've got to get rid of that spike protein.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so here in Bali, of course, coconut oil is easy to get.
Yes.
And they, a lot of people are actually pressing it themselves here still. It's not like, it's not a big factory or anything. We're talking just, little presses, and they do it at home, and it's pretty cool. So, okay, well, that is really excellent information, and that's going to be very helpful for me with a particular person. It's a Balinese person that I'm thinking of, and that'll be very helpful. That information was awesome.
Cool, man. Yeah, that's what I do. I'm loaded with these types of things, constantly studying this type of stuff. So yeah, one point though that I would like to make, because I know that after watching this, people are probably going to say, well, how do I get started, or what do I do?
Sure.
Really, I think that out of all of the things that exist, it's really down to, do I want to try it before I buy it? And how much money do I have to invest in this? And do I expect on getting a return on my investment? Those are the
valid
three
concerns.
questions that a person should ask. Because if you want to try it before you buy it, Quantum Wellness Hub all the way, go on there, get a couple of broadcasts going, give it probably 3 months, I would say, and really begin to see how things change and unfold in your life. And also, if you don't want to have a radionics instrument, or I should say an IDF instrument, then that's also a good long-term solution for you too. The other thing is that when people say, what's my investment really going to be? Well, now you need to determine not only your time investment, but also monetary, health investment and time and money investment. So if your problem is a money investment, then realistically looking at some smaller type of units that are more affordable, like the personal balancer, the Chio personal balancer, is a great option. The Chio hologram cards, Chio branded hologram cards, which I have a couple of here, like DNA activation, eliminate negative energy, neutralize radiation. These types of cards are, I think, only $20.
Yeah, they're only $20. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you could pick up, and you get two of them for free when you buy a unit, right?
Yeah.
So you can
Right.
kind of
Exactly.
choose which
Yeah.
ones that you want out of those 25. I
I
know, I
know.
think when
Yeah.
you did energy and chakra balance.
Negative
And
energy protection. Yeah. Eliminating negative energies. That's a really vital, you know, program for people. I think for most people living in our normal world today, there's a lot of negative energy floating around. So that's a really good one. And then of course, getting the chakras balanced. So those come with the units. And yeah, I know there are people on the internet selling the same cards for like $300
yeah,
just
which
for the
to
card.
be perfectly honest,
They're worth it.
they are also worth it at that price. But
Yeah.
realistically, the goal of Chio is to try and put these
In
into as many.
everybody's hand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And to make it as affordable as possible. And so
Yep.
I think that the personal balancer is really awesome. It has some
100%.
limitations in terms of space. You have to kind of keep it on your person and keep it close to you. But I
It'll
keep
work. It'll work in a bag too, a handbag
totally
if
a
someone puts it
purse.
in their
Yeah.
handbag or something. Yeah, sure.
Yep. So, um, so I think these are great. I personally sleep with one of these by me
Yep.
at all the time. When I'm working here,
Yeah.
I always have my electromagnetic um, neutralization, radiation, EMFs,
Yep.
basically inside of the unit, and I just set it right here, right by my computer screen, so that everything that I'm working with is completely taken care of. And of
Yep.
course, I'm crazy too. I have everything here is grounded. My screen is grounded. My
Yeah.
computer over here is grounded. I have the SE5 and all this other stuff grounded. My keyboard is grounded. Everything is grounded. So,
Ground is
I,
good.
yeah, exactly. I feel a little bit safer that way. Um, but yeah, so I think that that's a great option. But again, if you are trying to take care of your family's wellness, or if you're trying to take care of a family member, especially who is living further away, for your family and your home, I think the home balancer is the most appropriate way of going. I love
Right.
these teakwood ones. They're gorgeous. Like Don said, though, they are a limited edition. There's only so many of them left. They're $100 more as a result of that on the website right now. But the plastic ones do the exact same function. And if you put them somewhere central in the home, then they get almost the whole
They
home, depending on the
basically do
size.
just about
Yeah.
everybody's house. Yeah. I mean, I had one of my it was a friend, but also a client in India, and he built a new house, very large house, and he needed three of them. That's how big the house was. It was huge.
That's huge. That's a
It was
big
very big.
house.
It was a big house.
Wow.
It was
Well,
amazing.
that's very cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he was able to afford that. So now the remote balancers, I think, are one of the more awesome solutions, especially if you get some cards that are
Mhm.
going to be pretty ubiquitously usable by just about everybody.
Right.
And these I suggest to energy healers and people who have maybe kids in college or who have family members living abroad, where you want to be able to influence their wellness, but you need to do it from a distance.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
these
Yeah, even
remote.
our secretary, when her kids were going through school, especially for sports events and things like that, she would run the sports card, and their scores improved, and the kids were super stoked about it. Just like, Mom, can you put that card in? I've got a meet today, a swim meet, and
Yep.
they noticed right away, and so it's out of the mouth of babes kind of thing. It really is.
Yeah.
It was like that.
And then, for people who are like, wow, I am already sold on this. What's my next step? I mean, taking a look at becoming an SE5 practitioner would kind of be the next thing, because then
Sure.
that gives you the opportunity not only to perform
Yeah.
analysis and create your own broadcasts and do things
Yeah.
like that, but you can also program your own holograms
Yep.
and program your own crystals, like
Do all
we
kinds
use
of things.
gold over here. I've got crystal pendants and crystal,
Yep.
these ones are obsidian, but I have, clear
Hmm.
quartz, and I have amethyst and citrine, and all the other things that you can possibly
Yeah,
imagine.
I've had literally probably hundreds of people make businesses out with their creativity using the SE5 to imprint informational fields into different things and ways, everything from toothpaste to shoes to holograms to, just a lot of different uses for it, that have, you know, not everyone became a millionaire, but some of them did. And I'm really happy
Yeah.
about that. And just on another note, just as we're talking about the SE5, if you are interested in going, kind of all the way, what I'm really happy about is that we've trained Phoenix now to become a representative for the SE5. And so you'll do the training with them. They get 2 hours of training with the purchase of the SE5, which you'll be doing that training with them when they get the instrument through you. So
Exactly.
I'd like to encourage people to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fun. I always suggest going through all of the training that comes with the SE5
Sure.
kind of more or less first, and then learning how to do some above and beyond things with me. But it really doesn't matter if you want to get your instrument and teach me how to use it straight out of the box, or have me teach you how to use it straight out of the box. I'm available for that too. You get to
Or if they
choose.
teach you too, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it's true.
We're always learning.
So yeah, I think that the cool thing is that there are a lot of ways of participating in IDF wellness just in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just there's just the sky's the limit of what people come up with, really.
It's
And
true.
my job, especially in our school, is to teach people like enough different ways, not everything, but enough to where once they get going, then they come up with the ideas and they know how to apply it in
Yeah,
the way that it's never been applied before, just because they have enough training to do that. And that's really been my purpose, is to train people to um, think outside the box.
exactly. Break the
I'll
mold a
show you the
bit.
methods. And then once you get the basics down, you just like, oh, if I had applied it this way, what would happen? And then they do the research and go, well, my goodness, this really works. And it becomes something new and they make a product out of it, or, agriculture, all kinds of things. There are people doing all kinds of stuff. So,
Well, everybody, I just want to thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please like, subscribe, hit share. Share this with 3 people. If we get 3 people listening to this and they share it with 3 people within just a few generations, this
right.
information will be quite common knowledge and it will get out there. And we really, really appreciate you being able to do that, because I know that this stuff kind of can seem a little bit woo woo and kind of crazy, but I just suggest, give it a shot, give it a
Yeah.
little bit of experience, and then make a judgment. I wouldn't necessarily just poo poo this straight out the gate. I'm one of the most skeptical people and most critical people that I have ever met. Anybody who's met me and hung out with me in person knows that that's exceptionally true. And I have come around to this because the results have been undeniable. And so I would invite you to step down that same path, as enter in with a healthy dose of skepticism and just see what happens. At
And
any
it's
rate,
true. It's very true. And I like the engineers are usually like the top of the list of the skeptics. And like, for example, my dealer in Germany, now for almost 35 years, he was an engineer, a diploma engineer. And of course, this is crazy, but experimented with it and then ended up, we ended up writing books together. He's still doing it after 35 years. But yeah, I know the skepticism is great, and I think people should use it appropriately, not just to stop everything, but to really look into stuff with a critical look at what is possible, and then experiment and see what's not possible. Because it's like you have to find out what the limits are too. But
yep,
yeah,
that's
awesome.
exactly right.
Well,
So
thanks for
at any
thanks for wanting to have me on here, and we should do this again sometime.
Yeah, you're always more than welcome, Don. Thank you so much for being here, brother. And
Yeah,
thank you for all of our listeners out there. Again, I'm Phoenix Aurelius. This has been the Alchemi-Culture Podcast. You guys have an absolutely fantastic day. Until we see you next time, keep well and stay healthy.
thank you so much.